there's a fairly large amount of time left in this game, and it actually is pretty interesting, although I thought that this hatchery was up a while ago. I thought that he might have had another expansion or something. I was very scared at this point. I mean, that's entirely normal. Like, when you're in a situation where all you have are 2 Thors and you've got like 7 SCVs and it's, 8 minutes into the game, you're not going to think to yourself, oh, I'm completely fine right now. I have way more forces in. I'm going to attack. Because you've been blind the whole game to your opponent. You don't know that he doesn't have any units. You don't know that you crippled him so hard that he's completely vulnerable to your attack. If I were to attack right now, this game would be over. But I didn't know that. And I decided to do the smart thing, which was to just macro up a bigger force, keep the advantage of having a base compared to him not having a hatchery, and just kind of work with that for a little while. I really would like to see him throw his hive or his hatchery to Alaria. That's what he's doing right now, because he was sitting on so much gas with nothing really to use it on. He's going to be able to macro up a bunch of roaches if he needs to once the queen starts spawning some larvae. Just because he has so much gas, he can mine solely minerals for a while and actually still get enough roaches. And the thing is roaches are the perfect counter to this army. And roaches with burrow especially and the movement are very good against pretty much any Terran army. It really requires that you get all the way up to Starport with the Raven in order to handle the burrow. Because even though you can see them while they're moving underground, it's very hard to see them. And you can't really notice it unless... oh, he's got a drone down here. Anyway, you can't really notice it unless you watch them burrow and then follow them from there. It's very hard. A better player could, but I'm not a better player. And so going to be using pretty much all of my gas on Thors because I just recently decided I love Thors. I ended up watching a game, I think it was between the Little One and Damaga on Lost Temple, where the Little One just rushed for a Thor ship, dropped it on the high ground over the natural, took out the hatchery with 1 Thor and like 10 Marines, which he ferried up onto the high ground to guard his Thor. He even dropped a mule on the high ground to repair the Thor while it was, taking damage from spine crawlers. And Damaga just good game from there because he lost his expansion, and the Little One still had all of his forces. It's just really, really effective things that you can do with Medivacs and Thors because they do so much damage. They're a +1 right now. I've actually gotten both the armory upgrade for +1 and the infantry +1 weapons because I'm going to be going a nice mixture. Getting a lot of Marines is strong with your Thors. It kind of forces your opponent to commit to making some Banelings to deal with those Marines. You can't really get, obviously, any real air against this force. And so your only options are Hydralisks, which get dealt with very easily with the Hellions. If I continue to make them, I do like to mix in Hellions into my army, and then eventually if you switch over to tanks, which I will probably end up doing if he makes Hydralisks, then your Hydras get completely shut down. So really you kind of have to go with Banelings to take out these big infantry balls, and then hope that you have a remainder of Zerglings enough to surround these Thors. And so I probably could move up here and just take this out entirely, but I'm worried about Banelings. I know he has them, so I'm going to set up a little contain here. I'm going to move my Thors into separate areas, but in a nice concave at his ramp. I'm also going to spread my Marines out. And if you're not going to attack with your Marines, like you're just going to contain, this is great because they will naturally, respond to a unit that's right here and form this concave. But what they'll also do is already be spread out, so you don't have to do that little bit of micro. And he does have a secret hatchery going down here that I was not aware about. But I'm going to be getting that Infernal Pre-Igniter upgrade, I think. Yeah, it's about to finish. And right when it finishes, I'm going to scooch in here and see what's up. And I see a ton of Banelings going down. It's just essentially what I was afraid of. And because of that, I'm going to just continue to keep this nice concave up, prevent any kinds of expansions. Little did I know he had expanded down here. But even though he's already got this expansion, just cutting this off is going to prevent any, transfer of workers. And while Zerg can actually produce drones out of a base that's hidden much faster than Terran or Protoss can, just because you can get a queen and then you can start vomiting larvae, as well as the production rate being 1 every 10 seconds rather than 1 every 17 seconds. It's still very hard to actually get some kind of advantage from taking a base that's secret. And so with the pre-igniter and 5 Hellions, I'm just going to come in here and just roast these Zerglings. I really have no units that are going to threaten these Hellions off of the creep. Roaches are just too slow, especially if I keep them in this area. If I could try and get them around here, or if I try and run them around here, then yeah, the Roaches can cut them off. And that's not what I want to do with him. What I want to do is scout. I want to see what he has, while meanwhile just rallying more forces. You notice I added on another Thor. In the production tab, you're probably going to see me starting to get some tanks. I have 2 tanks on the way out. And I even have a Raven just in case some Roaches are going to be coming and moving in here. And, you know, this is almost kind of ridiculous. This force right here could probably just 1A into this force here and win, even though there's a bunch of Banelings. But, you know, it's not so much that I knew that at the time. It was just, I was thinking to myself, oh, well, I'm playing this well. And the ridiculous of this game really came in the beginning whenever there was this huge Baneling bust, which took out a barracks with just Banelings. That requires 2.5 times as many Banelings, and it's like 14 or so Banelings to take out. And because of that, my Marines cleaned up the Zerglings, but the second Baneling bust got lucky and took out my whole force of Marines, forcing that Thor back to the base and forcing my economy to get completely shattered. And I've just recently set up a second base, and so see, he's doing just what I was saying. He's getting lots of drones here. Maybe it would even be nice to get some speedlings to try and do some harassment, seeing as this is set up very nicely. I got the Raven just because I was thinking that he might actually get some Banelings burrowed here, or he might try and sneak out with Roaches burrowed. And so just having this Raven here provides that extra defense. But honestly, thinking back, I probably would just bring some SCVs and just kind of build turrets my way in. And with this many tanks here, this containment is just kind of ridiculous. Although the sheer number of Banelings that he has is kind of threatening. It's more than a control group of Banelings. It would be nice to see my Hellions, just scan to try and take out the creep. I don't want the creep to spread at all. I think my Hellions taking a little bit of damage to those Banelings, but see, I was able to clean up a few of those Banelings. Not really that many, only 1 or 2. But using the Hellions' mobility is very nice for doing this kind of scouting. You can always just run them right back to your wall in here, and it's not a wall in, but you can always run them right back to your little defensive position. And so I'm going to be eventually pushing in here slowly. Once again, I'm a super pansy, and he's throwing down a Nidus network, which is actually a great idea. I've really allowed myself to stay in this game. This Overlord right here is going to completely own me with this Nidus network if I allow it to go up. But I really need to be okay. So using the one medevac that I had, if this medevac had kills or a rank, he would be she would be so high up. But I'm gonna be moving in. I'm just gonna start sieging him with these tanks. Just being very careful. All of these tanks in the back now are able to fight. This siege tank is gonna die, but I didn't even bother defending that because I have all these forces down here now I can just bring in. And with this attack happening here, his Nidus network actually served no purpose because he now has no units to send in it. And this is gonna be a good game. Even throwing a Banshee in the mix here. So not too much of the most informative game. I played it super passively. It was kind of defensive play. No real point to not attack right after I take out his base and he fails with his roach attack. But yeah, just never underestimate the power of Thors against Zerg, because Thors early against Zerg are extremely powerful. So anyway, thanks guys for joining me. I'm going to go into another game, and before that I will turn up my graphics. I promise.